Welcome back to another conversation with the Brothers of Two Complex. We appreciate y'all for clicking on this video. We think you're going to love it. But before you get into the content, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you miss none of the bangers that we drop every single week. Enjoy the video. God bless. Beyonce is making a country album, bro. Renaissance Act 2 is set to be in the country realm. And there was a country radio station that refused to play her country song. You know what I'm saying? So she put out a song called Texas Hold'em to promote her upcoming Act 2 of the Renaissance that's supposed to be in the country genre. And KYKC, a country station, refused to play it whenever a young lady called in to request the song when it was requesting hour. And the station says we do not play Beyonce at KYKC as we are a country music station. So the question is, D-Lo, do different genres of music gatekeep what they consider to be a part of each genre? Do we gatekeep that for some reason?
So I don't feel like I would call it gatekeeping as much as I would call it unfamiliarity. You know, we're creatures of habits. We're creatures that recognize patterns or pattern recognizers. And, you know, if something isn't familiar to us, then we run away from it, especially if we didn't go seeking it or, you know, it just pops up on us. We're not really went searching for it. And that goes for all areas of life. So I feel like with this instance per se, because I believe, if I'm wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. The country station originally said that they would not play it because it was Beyonce, but because of the types of requests that we're getting, the amount of requests that they were getting, they did end up playing it.
They got a lot of emails and phone calls, and the actual owner of the station ended up we're going to end up playing it. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. And so with music, we all, you know, ironically, we did a segment last week in the opposite where we had, he wasn't in a certain sector of music. He's always classified himself as a rapper, I guess. But Tom McDonald, we talked about that. And, you know, it seemed as if hip hop was trying to gatekeep him out of rap and had an issue with the music he's make. And then fast forward to this week, we come to Beyonce and country music. And it would be easy to say, like, yeah, this is country gatekeeping, and maybe they are, but I think it's more so along the lines of unfamiliarity. You know, you don't have that many country artists, or the mainstream country artists don't look like Beyonce. You know, there are some, you know, that have pioneered country, and country was really, anyway. I was going to go somewhere else, but I'm going to refuse to go there. It's the obvious reasons, right? There are obvious reasons why you could say that country is trying to gatekeep Beyonce from coming out, but I don't feel like that's the case. I just think it's a sense of unfamiliarity.
I agree, because you've had like rock and roll artists like Jimi Hendrix that are, you know what I'm saying, that are amazing, that did a lot to pioneer rock and roll. I mean, and there's been artists of the African-American culture that have done a lot for the country genre as well in the past, and still now making music now, you know, and I think it is unfamiliarity. And if it's one thing about music is a form of art. Performance is a form of art. And a lot of things in art are meant to be, like we talked about in the last segment, subjective. So, but just to play devil's advocate a little bit, like, just because you are, Beyonce is an R&B artist. Like, she makes R&B music, rhythm and blues. She makes that. But just because you are creative enough to make something sound country, can we, with the type of artist that you are, can we classify that as country music? Like, but it's subjective, right? But like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, the reasons why they didn't play the song is because she isn't a country. She's not in the country genre. Like, and that's exactly what the guy said. He said, I've never experienced anything in my career like the amount of communications that we receive in support of a song. And then he goes on to say, we haven't played her on our country station because she's not a country artist. And then he said, well, now I guess she wants to be, and we're all for it. So it's like, but it's just like Lil Wayne made a rock and roll album, and it was. I don't know if I can't sit here and say like I know it was played on rock and roll stations, but he
Right.
made a rock and roll album, and he's a part of the genre. He's a part of music, which is art, which is subjective. So, if you feel like you want to make something and be creative with it, by all means, do it. But I can say right now that I kind of understand in a sense why they didn't play the song, why they didn't want to play the song, because Beyonce
Mhm.
isn't a country artist. Like, she's not. I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody in the world knows that. Even the Beehivers who pushed the song to try to get it put on the radio understand that she's not a country artist. But
Yeah.
art is subjective. So I guess, do your
But
thing. And
crossovers
when
happen in all music, though. Like,
agreed,
it's not
agreed.
just like, like you said, Jimi Hendrix was rock and roll. I mean, he was rooted in rock and roll, though.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Lil Wayne. You mentioned, I believe Paul McCartney did a country album. Who he was a part of the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
he
yeah.
did a country album. That's crossing over.
Mm-hmm.
We have plenty of examples of individuals crossing over
What's the
genres
gentleman
because,
from
like
Hootie
you
and the
said,
Blowfish that did, what's his name? I forget his name. The black guy from Hootie and the
David
Blowfish. But
Ruckus.
is that his name? Rucker?
I think it's
Rucker?
David Rucker. David Rucker.
Rucker? Yeah, yeah,
Ruckus.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uncle. I was thinking of
Uncle
Uncle
Ruckus. See,
Ruckus.
you
Wow. Mm,
It's funny because I
not
got his
good.
sound. I got his sound from the show on my soundboard. Whenever
Yeah.
somebody, Uncle Tom in the chat.
My apologies. My
All good.
apologies, David
Yeah.
Rucker.
Rucker.
But
You
yeah,
about to say
David Rucker.
Ruffin.
Well, where were you going? Yeah, I was going to say David Ruffin. Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. Nah, but what were you going to go with that though? With the David Rucker.
But no, just because we talked about Jimi Hendrix, who was rooted in rock and roll, but then you have Mr. Rucker, who was rooted in country.
Country.
But we were talking
yeah.
about, but you were talking about crossover, so I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead,
Yeah.
finish your statement.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying, but there's plenty of examples of artists crossing over the different genres because it is art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because you started your career in one avenue doesn't mean that you can't end up in another avenue, or you can't cross over for a bit to, dip your toe in another genre to see if your fans will appreciate that art just as much as they appreciate the art that you've become famous for or you become
100%.
well known for. And so I again, it just comes with the unfamiliarity, and there are obvious reasons why this would be unfamiliar to country fans, because that's just not what mainstream country is. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that Beyonce can't do it. And then you already automatically know, like you said, and like we mentioned last week as well, or was it last week we talked about her? No, 2 weeks ago we
Yeah, 2
talked
weeks
about
ago.
her. She has a big following, so anything she does, they're going to be a part of that. They're going to make sure that it gets its place. They're going to make sure that she gets the attention that she gets. And so this cannot go. This will not go unnoticed. I believe
100%.
her country album, while it's not her typical music, it will do well just because of the type of following that she has in the Beehive.
I agree, man, because I'm surprised that it didn't just off of Beyonce alone. I'm surprised that they actually refused to play it, because that would be one of the biggest months of plays and whatever views, whatever you want to call it, however they make their money in radio. They would make the most money probably in that month just by playing Beyonce. People would be
Well,
calling
they made the money off the ads.
True. So
Yeah.
there you go. So it wouldn't really necessarily be Beyonce that's really pushing. I guess she would be. I don't know how it works in radio, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about something I don't know. But she would bring in the most listeners to that radio station in different realms, in different cultures. People will be asking to play that song, be wanting to hear that song because she's Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to
My
Beyonce,
wife
man.
has been singing that mug since
I haven't heard the song yet. I probably should have listened to it. Whatever. Is it? I can't.
It's no. I mean, it's
Beyonce.
I don't know. I just know the first line of it because that's all the wife has been singing since the song came out. It's like, okay, but I mean, Beyonce's from Texas. Texas is big. I mean, in Texas, country is big. So I'm sure she grew up listening to country in some form, if not directly in her household. It's been played around her, even though she was sheltered and nurtured to be who she is today. I'm sure she still was around country quite a bit. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like we said last week, or like you said, who's to say what is hip hop? Who's to say what exactly is country? So if she
Mm-hmm.
wants to do a
Because we
country
could,
album, let her do a country album.
yeah, we can have this conversation all day because we having a conversation in our comment section right now with the Tom McDonald who's to say, who's the gatekeep, who's to say what is what, because everything
Right.
is subjective. Art is art. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
shout out to Beyonce for putting for bringing the country, you know what I'm saying, from the R&B community and doing your thing and go crazy, man, because the world is gonna love it regardless because it's you. So shout out to you, Beyonce.